So I can find the inverse of a quadratic function yet again for the warm-up. Now, if you didn't start it already, you should have been able to at least start this because it's just like the warm-up from Tuesday and similar to Monday. But let me remind you, if you're doing your course selection, that you're probably doing Algebra 2 next, maybe Geometry if you haven't done that yet. All right, so Quiz Friday over this stuff. Let's talk about inverse functions. Number 1. First of all, it's the same 4 steps. What's my first step? F of x turns into what letter? Y. So we rewrite it, and then instead of x and y, or what happens with x and y? What happens with x and y? Switch the order, okay? Remember, inverses, you're always switching x and y. So x equals negative y squared minus 1. Okay, now just like before, you need to get rid of the loner first. The loner is minus 1. The opposite of minus 1 is what? Adding 1. So plus 1 here, and the 1 goes after the x. So we have x plus 1 equals negative y squared. Now, there was one like this on your assignment for 5.2. What do you do if there's a negative? Okay. Do not get rid of the squared first. Okay. You need to get rid of this negative. What number is right here implied in front of y? Negative 1. So if it's a negative 1 in front, no matter what number's in front, you got to get rid of that first. So if negative 1 is being multiplied, what do I do to get rid of it? The opposite of multiplying. We divide by negative 1. Okay, divide by negative 1 here, and divide by negative 1 over here. So you're going to get like a whole big fraction here. Okay? And then we're left with y squared on the right. So we have x plus 1 over negative 1 equals y squared. My last step to get rid of a squared is what? Square root. Okay, so opposite of square, square root on both sides. And now that I have y by itself, I can write it as an inverse function. Square root x plus 1 over negative 1. So I think you have 1 on each side of the page of 5.2. Anytime you have a negative in front of y squared, you must divide by negative 1. Okay? I'm showing you this for a reason. Please use that as you're finishing 5.2 today. Let's do number 2. Number 2, what do I do first? What does f of x turn into? What letter? What does f of x turn into? Very first step. What do I write instead of f of x? Y. Okay. Hey. So y equals x plus 5 squared minus 6. Okay. Second step. X and y switch, right? X and y, they switch. Okay, so let's write that. X equals y plus 5 squared minus 6. Next step, I'm solving for y. Do I get rid of the 5 or the squared or the minus 6? What do I get rid of first? Minus 6 is the loner, so what the opposite of minus 6 is plus 6 here, plus 6 here. We got x plus 6 equals y plus 5 squared. All right, now, before we can mess with that 5 on the inside of the parentheses, we got to get rid of the squared. And again, opposite of squared, square root. Cool. Square root on the left, square root on the right. Cancels out on the right. Now I have square root of x plus 6 equals y plus 5. Okay, lots of steps, but we're almost done. Once we have y plus 5, I got to get rid of that plus 5 by doing the opposite, which is minus 5, right? So on both sides, I'm going to put minus 5 here. Please remember, it does not combine with that 6. You have to put it after the square root sign. So I can write it in my final form, f inverse of x equals the square root of x plus 6 minus 5. Okay, I keep showing all this on the warm-ups because on Friday you have to do this. Does everyone have some confidence in these 4 steps? F of x turns into y. Switch x and y. Then you have to solve it by doing opposite steps, inverse operations. And your final answer is going to look like an inverse function notation. You must be able to do that. So, here's what we're doing today. If you have not done 5.2, or if you're not done with 5.2, it's very, very important that you finish 5.2. It's not in the grade book yet, but it will be. So I'm going to let you finish 5.2 if you haven't done that first. Okay, don't let anything get ahead of 5.2. If you're done with 5.2, I created 5.3. 5.3 is just a mixture of 5.1 and 5.2. It's linear and quadratic. More practice, but it's only if you've done everything up to this point. So unless you've passed your first quiz and you've done all 4 of these assignments and turned in all of your warm-ups, if you've done everything, then I want you to grab 5.3 where I'm pointing over there next to the turn-in bin. Okay? That's what it looks like. Okay? It looks like 5.1 and 2. It's just more practice, mixed practice. Okay? But please, you need to be working on 5.2 today, not doing other stuff. A quiz is coming. Every day I've been saying this. Okay? And I appreciate the ones that come to class. Okay? But you got to work while you're here, please. All right, I'm going to leave this on the board, and I'm going to come around and see what you're working on. Here we go.